Hello, everybody. Good morning, good afternoon, whenever you're watching this. Um, I am not making a joke. I literally fell asleep during UFC 315. I was supposed to commentate it, and it would give me a lot of material for this podcast. However, it is now Sunday, 12:30, and I still have not been able to crank out a podcast. So what I did is I wrote down a couple of topics from UFC 315, and trying to stop myself from being too schizophrenic, if if I run out of topics, I will go on an Instagram live stream and we'll see if anybody's up. And either way, it's just going to be a whole bunch of me yapping. But I have this list of topics, and the first thing that I want to talk about is pretty obvious if it's UFC 315. Bilal versus JDM. The one thing that I wanted to talk about is the disrespect on Bilal Muhammad. Um, Going up into this fight, everybody around the world probably universally thought, Bilal Muhammad was boring. After this, he's got respect, but the consensus of what I see is people saying like, Bilal is boring, right? That's what they said before this fight. They say he's just gonna wrestle. And then Bilal is like, okay, well, I'm going to get these Canelo hands. I'm going to go in here and box everybody out. He goes in there and loses in the striking. And then now everybody's saying, well, Bilal could have won the fight if he was wrestling. Well, that's just what everybody was talking shit about. So now Bilal tries to go in and strike, make it entertaining, the Michael Chandler style. And people are still shitting on him. I saw this one video where it was like breaking it down, like if you're an amateur fighter, people will talk shit and say you were never pro. If you're a pro fighter, they'll say you were never in the UFC. If they say, you know, and it goes on and on and on. If you're in the UFC, they say you're never a champion, and then they'll go, oh well, you weren't a double champion. It goes on and on and on. But man, like the disrespect on Bilal specifically, like the dude got to the champion status and couldn't even enjoy it for a second, dude. His first title defense, he gets his lips split open like Overeem, and the disrespect doesn't even go there. Like he didn't only get busted up in the arena. Before the fight, I remember he was facing off against somebody. I don't remember who it was, but Joe Rogan was like, "Come on, Bilal, get in the cage." And Bilal's walking up to the cage, and they're literally not letting him in. They're not letting him in because they don't know who he is. This guy's name is Bilal. Remember the name, Muhammad, and nobody remembers his name. Like, that's so fucked. I mean, after this fight, I think most people kind of agree that, hey, this guy was pretty fucking entertaining in this fight. But yeah, Joe Rogan says, hey, Bilal, come to the cage. And the guys don't let him in because they don't know who he is. And then, what was it? Friday morning, Bilal is getting on the scale. And this UFC commissioner says, who is this guy? And he has stapled papers. He has literal stapled papers that say all these fighters' names. And he starts flipping through the papers. This isn't Scooby-Doo, dude. Like, alright, so let's break this down, because I'm fucking short-circuiting here. This guy, this commissioner, I guarantee he does not know these prelim fighters, right? He just lets them on the scale, because they look like they're drained, and they're in their fucking underwear. Let them on the scale, they must be a fighter. It just, like, it has to be disrespect that this UFC commissioner starts flipping through the papers. Like, Bilal Muhammad literally looks like a fucking mummified body almost, right? He literally looks like half a skeleton. And this fucking fat doughboy marshmallow fucking old UFC commissioner just starts flipping through these papers like, who is this guy? The disrespect is absolutely insane. And, that's something that I had to talk about at the beginning of this. Like, dude, how can you literally go and be the UFC champ? Even if you're boring, man. Like, Islam was boring at first. They say he was boring, but they never were. Habib, boring. They said he was at first, but then like you grow into that style. Like even if you start off where people say your style's boring, you evolve into it. But Bilal never got a chance. His first title defense, he gets fucking smoked by this guy. And it's only because he wanted to make the fight entertaining. But, man, the disrespect. I couldn't believe it that morning whenever I was looking on Instagram and it said from a couple hours ago. And Bilal literally looks like he's drained half to death. And this fucking dude, oh man, this UFC commissioner is just acting like he doesn't know that this is the main event. And John Anik in the back was like, it's the main event. The main event. Like, you don't know that? You just went through the early prelims, right? This guy obviously had these papers stapled, so he had a lot of fighters in there. And he just got to the last ones, and he's asking, oh, who is this guy? Come on, man. Like, guys, what are we doing here? I hope Bilal, after I saw that, I was on the Bilal, not hate train, but I was on like the, this guy's boring train. And then I saw that Rogan clip that I was talking about, and then I saw that clip Friday. That's what pushed me over the edge, man. Like, the disrespect is absolutely insane. For the nicest guy ever, I listened to him on Mighty Mouse's podcast, which that's another thing I wanted to bring up. Man, I'm glad I didn't forget that. The Mighty Mouse podcast with the literal welterweight champion of the world, Bilal Muhammad, got like 200,000 views. Mighty Mouse training with death sentence got like 3 million plus. Man, that's why. That was some of the most entertaining training videos I've ever seen on the internet. I did a video on that, but you know what? Because I might forget about this later, and things like this come and go, I want to talk about that. That death sentence in Mighty Mouse training was so fucking good. I'd have 3 reaction videos on it. No, I only have 2, and that third one is out. I think I might do a video on it. You know what? I will. Now that I'm thinking about it, now that I'm talking about it again on the podcast, I might as well do another video on it. But, I wasn't really impressed. If you haven't watched the videos, I'll just make a summary. Our favorite channel on AJ December MMA, Street Beefs, has this one fighter in particular named Death Sentence. He's lost every single fight that he's been in, except he has this style where he just jumps out at you and throws these wild-ass punches. Mighty Mouse does a breakdown on Death Sentence, and eventually they train together. My thing was, I didn't believe that Death Sentence would be able to retain information that Mighty Mouse, was giving him. And we saw that he won a fight, but by punching the dude in the back of the head. It's all fucking hilarious. If you want to see my reaction to that, go watch it. But like the GOAT of mixed martial arts, arguably Mighty Mouse. At least technically, it's either Jones or Mighty Mouse. GSP is up there. Everybody's got their own preference. But you have the GOAT of mixed martial arts, one of, training the worst Street Beefs fighter I've ever seen. And I'm not saying that, like, trying to hate on the guy. Just, Street Beefs is like a really low, not low. It's what you'd really find on the street. Street Beefs is an accurate kind of measurement of fighters that you might fight. If you're just out in the street, like regular people is what I mean. But Death Sentence is probably F tier if we're doing a tier list on the Street Beefs fighters. We got like people like Fair Play, I don't know, Icy Mike, Baby Hulk is at S tier, and then we got Death Sentence at F tier, right? That's giving you like a scale. Like GSP is up here with John Jones, and then like CM Punk would be F tier. Well, that's Death Sentence for Street Beefs, and that's not even just hating. Dude likes Batman, and he tries to train like Batman. He's just a young kid. He has the ability to learn, but watching that, my main thing was, I don't think Mighty Mouse can have enough time with him. But it's the most fucking entertaining thing I've ever watched. Man, it's ridiculous that things like this are starting to pick up. Like, the internet is an amazing fucking place. Ever since the Mouse retired, now he's just doing side quests. And I'm glad he stopped doing that. as much gaming on his channel because, come on, man, we don't want to see him play Elden Ring or whatever. We want to see him play play Street Beefs is what we want to see. But yeah, I wanted to go into that briefly because I just thought that was absolutely ridiculous. But we also got Shevchenko won. I didn't really watch too much of that. I watched some highlights of it, but I expected that she'd won because she's Shevchenko, man. This Farhat girl, she had like 13 fights, and I think she was undefeated in the UFC or something. But what I'm really interested in was that Aldo fight. That Aldo fight was absolutely ridiculous. If I could describe to you, if you haven't seen it yet, it's kind of like... Fuck, man. How can I describe this? It's like, you know how a Looney Tunes fight where they're in a hurricane, and it's like you can't really see what's happening? There's like 15 seconds of that fight where Aldo is putting a colossal ass whooping on this guy. I almost fucking had a stroke there for a second. He's chasing him around the octagon, kicks him in the face twice. People were saying it's legal, but with this new rule set, Aldo didn't Zahabi or whatever his name was, didn't have a knee on the ground, so Aldo was able to just soccer kick him in the face. Literally, that's exactly what it reminded me of, is this fucking soccer kick right to the face. He retired after that, which is, you know what's fucked up is, I think a tragedy of fighting is when a fighter retires twice. I think I've talked about on this podcast before, my favorite retirement ever was the Korean Zombie, I think, in the Max Holloway fight. Like, watching that one live, you should go watch that right now. You should come back to this podcast after you watch that. The Korean Zombie retirement. Just search that up. It's probably going to be the first one. But the Korean Zombie comes back after a long time, has all of his original Korean fans in the audience, and loses brutally to Max Holloway, right? It's the worst way that you could ever walk out of the arena. However, the Zombie hadn't retired a million times before, and he was a very honorable fighter, right? His walkout song, everybody screamed that walkout song as he was walking out of the cage and finally retired. Everybody was going crazy that the Korean Zombie retired. And it shows you, like, Aldo has retired a bunch. He's had a long career. And, you know, it's like the McGregors of the world and the Aldos of the world. It's like, if you don't leave at the time you're supposed to leave, you're not going to like coming back. And Dana, I think Dana's the one that said this. He was like, if you're talking about retiring before a fight, then you shouldn't fight. Even though Aldo looked good and he won that fight. Absolutely, he won that fight. I'm just saying, like, for Aldo to retire, I feel like it didn't get the pop that it needed. You know, because that one Korean Zombie, it was like literally out of a fucking Rocky movie. But I guess everybody can't get that picture perfect, retirement. I remember Stipe is probably the worst one I've ever seen. When he got beat by Jones it was a long time ago now. Which is the next thing I need to go into here. Fucking Jones versus Aspinall is something we haven't talked about because we haven't been back with the podcast for a while. Jones versus Aspinall is ridiculous. This shit is... It's like, if you're Aspinall, what do you do at this point? I've been thinking about that a lot. Like, I would be pushing for anything else other than the Jones fight. You need to make it undeniable that you are the champion. Like, it already is undeniable, but the situation that he's in is fucked. He's in the Michael Chandler situation with Conor McGregor and Michael Chandler after Tough. Like, now you've got Aspinall literally waiting on Jones for what? And Jones is doing side quests now, talking about hosting the Ultimate Fighter, and man, that's ridiculous. I don't know how it hasn't even been announced yet. Aspinall's been saying, oh yeah, we've signed a contract, and then they're saying, no, we haven't. It's crazy that Stipe was the longest reigning heavyweight, longest defending heavyweight champion. And now Jones has surpassed that with one title defense. I mean, I'm probably one of the biggest John Jones fans technically, and without being said, out of the cage he's done terrible shit, but I'm able to, rip the personality from a fighter and just look at the technique, because that's what you have to do sometimes with the McGregors, the Jones. Some of those fighters you're not going to agree with personally, but you're losing a whole lot of technique and knowledge if you rip that away. But I think it's ridiculous that how are you going to have one title defense while Stipe had, God, how many fights? Like three fights with Cormier. Stipe had a fight with Overeem, I believe. God, I can't even think of all of them. He had fights with so many guys. His resume is insane. And Jones has now matched his heavyweight reign, which is absolutely insane to me. If you're Aspinall, I think you just take another fight. Like, you put the UFC on blast, on social media, whatever you can, to just skip the Jones fight then. How about this? I'm going to be the first interim champion that defends this belt while John Jones is doing whatever he's doing. It's sad seeing these fighters get, to the point where they're not fighting as much as they used to anymore. Conor McGregor's now trying to be the president of Ireland. In one video, he even said finally he's he's not coming back, which everybody could have guessed, a year and a half ago if you were smart enough. That reminds me, there's a clip out there where Conor is all how can I say this without getting demonetized? He's all booger sugared up, right? And he's talking about Ilia Topuria. And every time I watch that clip without failure, I laugh for at least 5 minutes. The first time I watched it, it's rare for me. I don't know what it is about me, but it's rare for me to laugh, legitimately laugh. Belly laugh. Just a legitimate laugh. When I watch Conor McGregor, he's like, how does it go exactly? He's like, how would you beat Ilia Top Toro? I'd grab him by the scruff of the chest here, and then I'd slap the nose off him. Bop, 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 bop. Or something along those lines. Watching him answer those questions, just all fucking jacked up, is hilarious. Go watch that clip too. You got homework to do. You got MMA meme homework to do. Yeah, that's ridiculousness. He's not fighting again, which is so depressing, man. Imagine if McGregor, hold on. Excuse me. Imagine if McGregor had snapped his shin. It was 5 years ago, I think. Yeah. I was talking about this on a live stream, which we might have to start that up soon. I'm not sure. I've still got a couple of topics to go through, and I don't want to just jump in that live stream yet. But what was I saying? Yeah, I was talking about this in a live stream. Dustin Poirier versus Conor McGregor whenever he snapped his shin bone. Yeah, people were saying that was 2023, and I'm like, nah, man, that was 2020. It had to be COVID, because I was in the hospital at the time. I remember it. And there is a branching pathway there. Think about it. Conor can come back and come back strong. Where he's still fighting, finds a different way to fight, and it's not unheard of to break your shin and keep fighting. And then there's the path that we've gone down where he enjoys his money. But, oh man, if we look at if Conor McGregor was still fighting and still motivated the way that he was, where, I was talking about this the other day. We'll branch off a second and come back to, how it is today. But I was talking to somebody about the law of attraction with Conor McGregor. That is a very interesting thing where the Jose Aldo knockout, we're bringing it right back to UFC 315 again. Conor McGregor literally manifested that knockout, and it's one of the craziest things because, I'm not a big believer in stuff like that, but watching Conor McGregor, first off, in the locker room, he's mimicking not only how he's going to knock out Aldo, where he's in a southpaw stance and he's floating back and forth. He mimics that in the locker room with his coach. But he also mimics how Jose Aldo will rush in. So he's both mimicking himself and his opponent, manifesting literally what's going to happen. I think I'm saying literally or no, legitimately a lot. I put that in my mind. I'm like, I think I've said legitimately about 200 times in this episode. Anyway, McGregor literally manifests it, and then you see that same exact sequence. I'll have to do a video on this, man, because it's real freaky. It gives me goosebumps when I think about it, because the way that he looks is identical to the way the knockout looks, and it's because he saw it, which is strange. But we have that branching pathway where he knocks out Jose, and then in the interview is what I was kind of going to is he gets interviewed by this reporter, and the look on McGregor's face is so focused. It's in 2015, I believe. The reporter says, "Do you remember what we were talking about before the fight?" And McGregor says, "Yes, I said that he would rush in, and I'd clip him with the left hand." And then the reporter goes, "No, no, 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 no. You said, quote, word for word," and then he goes on to say something along the lines of, "I felt that Jose wanted to unfurl that right hand, and I would not be there. I would set traps and dead space. I would, whatever." He goes on and on. You need to watch it. But it's one of the craziest things. This reporter goes and lays out exactly how he said that he knocked him out, and McGregor just says, if you can see it and hear, and you have the courage to speak it, then it'll all happen. Which is a crazy divergent, which is what I'm coming back to, what I said I was coming back to earlier, to Dustin Poirier versus Conor McGregor 3, where we see a literal evolution, but no, we see a de-evolution. Is that how you say that word? I don't know. But we see McGregor go from, in the first fight, I can literally play it in my mind right now. He starts off with a spinning hook kick, I believe. McGregor had creativity. He would smother your pressure. He would smother your creativity. He would counteract exactly what he needed to win a fight. And now we have a juxtaposition to Dustin Poirier 2 and 3, where in 2 he has some success, but he gets knocked out. And then in 3 he has some success and then gets stopped. It's very crazy to see how McGregor was one of the craziest fighters to watch, to now he's the president of Ireland, or I don't know what he's doing. But it's honestly a shame, because think about the matchups that we could have. Imagine Conor McGregor versus Islam, Conor McGregor versus Ilya, Conor McGregor versus who else? There's fucking plenty of people that I can't think of for some reason. Chandler. Hell, even Chandler. Oliveira. Imagine if he was working on his grappling this whole time after the Habib fight. Imagine after the Habib fight, I know we're playing a fucking fantasy game here, but it's just an interesting thing to think about, where you look at that 2015 McGregor and you never think he'd go down that route after, Habib and the throwing the dolly through the window and all that crazy shit. But now we see him, going down the route that he is kind of crazy. I don't know. But it kind of has to happen, with all that money. You see, after that Habib fight, it's like he could have worked on his grappling. He could have came back and defended like he did in the first round of that Habib fight where he was defending well, worked on his gas tank. But we didn't see that. We saw a splitting path where, you box Floyd Mayweather, you make all the money in the world, and why wouldn't you sail off into the sunset literally with a yacht? But, I don't know. If I was him, and if you were him, it's kind of weird to say that you wouldn't do the same thing. Even with insane discipline like Conor McGregor had back in the day that got him to be a double champion for the very first time in the UFC. All of that manifestation, if that money corrupts you, it's kind of crazy to see the way that he went. But, speaking of matchups, after 315, we got some crazy matchups no matter what. I know people are pissed about the Islam versus Ilya fight. I feel like it'll happen eventually. I feel like no matter what, things just happen like that. But what I want to talk about is Islam versus JDM, which seems to be the next course of action for Islam. How I think that fight goes with JDM being a switch hitter, it kind of probably plays out how Islam versus Poirier did, where Poirier was able to unload on Islam at every single point of the fight because he didn't have to rely on his normal stance, where a switch hitter can it's like kind of like a kryptonite for a wrestler is a switch hitter, because it's not just power punches, but you have the ability to step back or step forward with punches at any time, and also cut to the left and cut to the right. Excuse me. But I feel as if JDM versus Islam probably goes the same way it did against Poirier, except it probably ends faster. But I don't know. That's just my opinion. I feel like it ends faster because we've seen Poirier go against everybody. We've seen him grapple Habib, and now he grappled Islam. And didn't he fight Charles too? I'm not sure, but he's fought every type of fighter out there. And I don't know. JDM, I feel like his striking's real good. It's real clean. But so is Poirier's. And we saw Bilal Muhammad was able to do this to JDM. I feel like Islam is... I don't know how that's going to go. But the other thing that's really interesting, honestly, that I think is way more interesting than Islam versus JDM, is Oliveira versus Ilya now. Oliveira versus Ilya might be the most interesting fight that I can think of. Other than, Makhachev. Shit, we'll talk about that after the Charles one. I feel like, honestly, this might be the best course of action for the UFC to go. Well, not the UFC, just for the direction of how this could go. We're gonna see Ilya Topuria versus Charles Oliveira. Oliveira is a good striker, right? But he's a way better jiu-jitsu fighter. And then we got Topuria, who we've seen his wrestling, but he's a good wrestler, but a really good striker. I feel like this fight could play out the same way that the Michael Chandler fight did, except Ilya could kind of escape where he wants and punish where he wants. I feel like the ground and pound might be the neutralizing factor in this fight, whereas Ilya is obviously going to be able to piece him up on the feet, where Michael Chandler was able to stall out on the ground. I feel like Ilya is going to be able to get on top and ground and pound Charles to the point where it's going to be very uncomfortable for Charles to try to execute his game plan. I feel like Ilya versus Charles is a very good test to see how Ilya will do against Makhachev, which will be so fun to see. And, even if we don't see it soon, we'll see it sooner rather than later. Oh, man, that'll be so fun. And, like I said, that will really, set a stage for, if Topuria can beat Makhachev, because we saw, Makhachev relatively easily dismantled Charles. But I feel like Charles, the fights against Michael Chandler is what really defines Oliveira's current, how can I say this? Those Michael Chandler fights defines how good Oliveira is right now. Because we saw Patty put a fucking whooping on Michael Chandler, an ungodly whooping. And that's kind of bumping down Oliveira for me a little bit, because I feel like Topuria goes in there and fucks him up. Especially after the Saryukin fight. Armin Saryukin, or Haryukin, whatever the fuck his name is. Yeah, that definitely changes my opinion. I feel like Topuria definitely wins that. It's just the Makhachev fight that's the biggest what if. Man, but I hope it's not like a Tony Ferguson-Habib thing where, we never get to see it and it's just, a whole bunch of bullshit and a bunch of bullshit. But, oh man, that'd be so fun to watch. Because it's literally like wrestling versus striking, except it's gonna kind of neutralize each other out because they're good at both. It's just, we'll see if one can edge out the other and stop, for Ilya stopping the takedown and enforcing the strikes, or for Islam stopping the strikes and enforcing the takedown. Oh my god, I literally just got jump scared from shaking my light off my desk. I'm not even gonna cut that out the video. Holy shit. Man, that just woke me the fuck up. Man, I want to watch that back here in a little bit. That was fucking entertaining. I still got a couple of topics on my list here. I was talking on a live stream about this other matchup, Sandhagen versus O'Malley, which we can either see. I feel like Sandhagen already deserves a title shot. That's kind of set in stone for me. But people are still talking about it like he doesn't deserve it. Either way, we're going to see him against O'Malley or we're going to see him against Merab. Sandhagen versus O'Malley. Oh my god, that's going to be absolute cinema. I will watch that over and over for weeks if it is exactly what I think it is. Like I said, I was talking about on live stream. I'm probably not going to put it in this podcast, but it might be one of the best striking matches that we see in a long time. I feel like the angles that Sandhagen has and the angles that O'Malley has to try to land the right hand is going to lead to absolute chaos. It's going to be a chess match of position where you put your feet. Sandhagen with the threats of the flying knee and takedown. O'Malley with the threats of the front kicks, teep kicks, and right hand with the jabs. With the jabs right down the middle, setting up that right hand. Oh, man. It's literally just going to be a battle of position. I feel like the neutralizing factor in this fight would be if O'Malley is able to stop Sandhagen from taking him down. Because we've seen Sandhagen has really evolved in his ground game way more than O'Malley. Because Sandhagen actually uses it in his fights rather than just takedown defense. I feel like if O'Malley can just stop Sandhagen's takedowns, then we're going to see a really complex striking clinic. However, if I see that Sandhagen is able to take down O'Malley often and establish, ground and pound or some sort of submission threat, I think Sandhagen's going to win easily. Because once you start mixing in that takedown with the striking like Sandhagen does, it's not a good night for strikers like O'Malley, which we're probably going to see in O'Malley versus Merab too, where Merab is able to beat the fuck out of you because he's just going to take you down, beat you up, let you up, take you down, beat you up over and over and over again. But yeah, that's going to be so fun to see. O'Malley versus Sandhagen will feed families for generations. But yeah, the angles, the footwork, trying to get on the left side of your opponent because they're going to be trying to land that right hand, so you're going to be trying to avoid it while landing your right hand. Oh, absolute positional chess match in real time. I'll break down that fight for 3 weeks if I have to. However, it could be a quick knockout. If it was a quick knockout, I'd probably lean towards O'Malley. Oh, but Sandhagen, man. Sandhagen's got that fucking brutal knee, too. Oh, this is just a ridiculous fight. I think I'm more hyped for that than I would be Makhachev and Topuria, which might surprise some people. But I've been watching O'Malley since the Contender Series, when Snoop Dogg was commentating with Uriah Hall. I remember that's the first time I watched O'Malley, where he did that spinning heel kick, and then Snoop Dogg went crazy. And the first time I watched Sandhagen was not T.J. Dillashaw. After Aljamain Sterling choked him out, probably Frankie Edgar. Probably the Frankie Edgar. So I've been watching these guys way longer than Topuria, and way longer than Makhachev. However, I did watch Topuria whenever he fought Ryan Hall, and I remember, I need to do a breakdown on that, but I remember that fight was really interesting because it's literally jiu-jitsu versus boxing, or striking versus jiu-jitsu, because Topuria does not try to fuck around on the ground, and Ryan Hall keeps going for this heel hook, I believe it is. I need to do a breakdown on that and call it boxing versus jiu-jitsu. That'll be very fun. But yeah. Oh man, good times. Sandhagen versus O'Malley. I'm so excited for it. Let's see what else we got on this list. I think we're running out here. Yeah, I pretty much talked about everything except for 2 more. Oh, no. There's another big one here. I don't even know. How long have we been going on now? I need to move this thing here. Okay, we've been going on pretty long now. Alright, cool. I didn't want to make sure I'm going too long. I wanted to talk about this MMA recession thing. I hear Mighty Mouse keep talking about it. I feel like this MMA recession thing is like blown way out of proportion. People are saying, is MMA, is it MMA going downward in views? Is MMA, not as popular as it used to be? Well, no, it's not as popular as it used to be because all of the big names are fading out, and now we're going to have to find more big names, and right now it's just wrestlers. Like, people are saying this because of the Bilal Muhammad thing, the most boring UFC champion. I think the UFC is kind of like if you put a bunch of names in a hat, and the talent comes whenever the talent comes, and if you don't pull that name out of the hat, if X, Y, and Z doesn't happen, then we're not going to have interesting fights. If we have a bunch of Bilal Muhammads just wrestling and, putting you up against the cage, then you can call that a recession. I kind of just call that a stalling point. But recession is like we're losing something. I feel like just because there's boring champions, MMA still has such a fucking huge fan base that it doesn't matter. Like, there could be boring champions, but the second that there's an Alex Pereira, this is crazy. Alex Pereira was just called like one of the biggest things to happen in the sport a couple months ago. And now we're talking about MMA's in a recession. Alex Pereira was one of the, versus Adesanya. There were so many fucking storylines. Adesanya versus Costa. And now, I think everybody's talking about this recession thing. We were just on a huge fucking roller coaster with all of these big names happening at the same time. We saw Izzy versus Silva happened, passing the torch. And then we saw Izzy versus Pereira. And now we're at the point where it's like, okay, well, what happens next? What's next in the big crazy storyline? We were going to see that only dude that beat Pereira in kickboxing, he was going to come to the UFC, but they didn't pay him enough. And now it's like, people are saying MMA is in a recession. It's not in a recession. What MMA is in right now is it's stalling. This is a part of the race where we have to coast a little bit because we just saw maybe the best point of MMA, and it's been going like a roller coaster. I feel like the roller coaster only gets better though, because people are trying to argue the skill threshold. Like, everybody knows the same stuff now. Everybody knows wrestling and striking combined. So people are saying it's a boring fight because you're canceling each other out. No. What's going to happen now is you have the bar set where everybody knows everything. The specialties are still going to be there. There's still going to be people better at striking, people better at jiu-jitsu. Now you're just going to see more complete game plans. And if you know more about mixed martial arts, the scrambles in wrestling will get better because if people know, okay, I can't stall here, I can't have my back to the fence, they know how to escape. Sorry, I have a fucking itch in my ear right now. But if people know how to get out of a position and they want to get out of a position, if people know how to get out of it, rather than like the Conor McGregors of the world where they're just strikers, they're going to stall, push where they can, or the Pereiras where they're just going to push where they can. If everybody knows wrestling, then the scrambles are going to be like Kamaru Usman and Michael Chandler. Go watch that right now. Those scrambles are ridiculous where it literally looks like chess. It looks like art. They are just fucking flying around, grabbing each other, throwing each other, and, manipulating weight. Some of the best shit you'll ever see. But yeah, people are saying MMA's in a recession. I think that is the most ridiculous thing ever. Because we just saw the Alex Pereira of the world. John Jones is still fighting. Yeah, no. We're in a recession, sure, but there's always going to be stalling points, is what I call it. Because, man, all the crazy shit that we've seen, we've got the prodigy of Khabib Nurmagomedov fighting today, and people are saying MMA's in a recession. However, in a couple years, everybody will say, man, you remember when Ilya Topuria fought Islam Makhachev, or you remember when Sandhagen fought O'Malley? Man, those were the days. MMA's in a recession right now. And then when they say that, a couple years from then, they'll be like, oh, you remember when what's-his-name fought what's-his-name? Fucking Z-Blop fought Glorglop or whatever? Because, there's going to be new guys and fucking, you never know. I feel like MMA's in a recession is not accurate ever because it's a fucking crazy sport. People are just going to elevate the bar gets higher, and people are going to keep going above it. But we got one more thing on the list, and it relates to we got two more. I should flip a coin for which one I talk about. Should I? You know what? I'm gonna ask you. I don't think you have a choice though, and we might talk about both either way. Should I talk about the 100 unarmed men versus gorilla thing, which I already did a video on, or David Goggins training Adesanya, which I think everybody's gonna talk about the gorilla, so we'll talk about that real quick. Already did a video on it. People keep saying the humans are gonna win, and I see so many ridiculous arguments like, well, humans beat, they hunted woolly mammoths. Well, the argument is 100 unarmed men versus a gorilla. We didn't go and bare hand falcon punch a bunch of, woolly mammoths. That never happened. We had pointy sticks and a brain. That's why we were able to hunt them. But I feel like a gorilla is just like so strong to the point where humans are like, yeah, we're humans. We can get our weight on top of it. Oh, man. Have you ever seen a gorilla? Those things are so fast. I don't know. The more I hear, people are saying humans. But I'm still sticking with my guns with this gorilla. I hope nobody tries this shit, though. When I first heard it, I had a lot more to say, but after all of this, it's just like, when you hear something on the internet so much it just beats you down. I'm surprised Joe Rogan hasn't talked about this. I'm surprised I haven't seen 700 clips of Rogan talking about it. If you got invited on the Rogan show, the first thing that you should bring up is, what do you think about this 100 man versus gorilla debate? But yeah, my consensus, the only way that humans could win is by putting sheer weight on top of the gorilla. Our hands would break if we punch the gorilla, because I see this thing where people say 9 men is equal to 1 gorilla. So if we have 9 times that or whatever, that might have been bad math. 81. I don't fucking know. Look, I'm an MMA guy, not math guy. Anyway, they say that 9 guys equals 1 gorilla's strength. So if 9 guys, can hit a gorilla, then that equals 1 gorilla. All we need is 30 guys. The problem with that is you can't hit a gorilla in the same place at the same time. So 9 people never, striking wise, how many people can you even get around a gorilla without it getting away from you or smashing someone's head? Realistically, not that many. It'd have to be literally, we'd have to work like ants. But yeah, 9 people can't strike a gorilla at the same place, on its arm. For example, if you wanted to hit a gorilla on its arm with the same amount of power as one other gorilla does, you couldn't do it. You couldn't fit 9 people, coordinate attack like that to actually harm a gorilla. Gorillas hit each other all day, and 9 men can't hit a gorilla. So striking's out of the matter. For wrestling, we can't fucking grab this thing, dude. 100 people. A gorilla could literally, my fucking Ram 1500. That gorilla, I searched it up in ChatGPT. Literally my model of truck. I'm like, could it, flip my truck? And ChatGPT was like, yeah, it could flip your truck. And then I was asking my friend, I'm like, yo, how many people do you think it would take to flip my truck? And then he's like, man, I don't know, fucking 20. I'm like, yeah, right? But maybe if we were, and then I asked him, maybe if we were, really had to do it for our lives, I was like, maybe 9. And then he was like, yeah, he agreed with that number. So that's okay, cool. But, man, it'd be an effort. I saw John Jones said he wanted to lead the pack on that. Please don't, John. John, don't do it. I like seeing you fight, John, but it's like seeing Mike Tyson versus Gorilla back in the day where he tried to bribe that zookeeper. Yeah, that's absolute insanity. Yeah, I don't really got too much more to say about it. It's just ridiculous. I really don't want to see it happen. People are saying Mr. Beast is trying to get it together, dude. I really don't want to see a bunch of random fucking crackheads trying to win $1 million fight a gorilla. But the last thing I was going to talk about is the David Goggins thing, and we might as well talk about that. And then we might get into an Instagram live stream. Probably not though, because I was able to yap for a whole hour about all of these topics, which I was like, maybe I'm not going to be able to have a whole episode off of these topics. I might have to do an Instagram live stream. And now, I'm going to update y'all on what time it is. It is now 12:09. You know what? I might be able to. If I add it in the end, I might add it in the end. Either way, we got the David Goggins situation, which I might do a video on. I really hope that Goggins isn't like the Drake curse. Here, hold on. I gotta put on a charger on my camera. I really hope that this David Goggins thing isn't like Tony Ferguson again. And I hope Adesanya can actually bounce back by using David Goggins. However, I don't know, guys. I don't know if I necessarily believe that. I've seen it's like a double-edged sword where it can be used to strike your opponent, but it can also be used to strike against you. I feel like David Goggins could help Adesanya, if they continue training together, mentally, to where he'll push himself. However, I think Adesanya's problem is more technical, where he was a more reaction-based fighter, and he's getting older now. It's like Silva. However, Pereira's got a style the same way, but he's still able to pull it off, like, reflex-wise. Here, hold on. There's a fucking... There we go. My bad, guys. Pereira's got that same reaction-based style, and he's like 37, and it's still working for him. But, I don't know. I feel like David Goggins could help Adesanya, but his problem isn't really mental. It's more technical, where he doesn't have his hands up where he's supposed to. He gets pressured at awkward times. I feel like that's his problem more than anything, and David Goggins can't really hurt if he's not in a fight camp, but how much can it really help you either? Tony Ferguson is the same thing because his problem was technical. It wasn't really like a mental problem. Tony Ferguson will have both of his arms dislocated before he has the fight stopped. But, I mean, Adesanya, he's not really a quitter, is he? Is he? But, you know what? I've decided, if nobody's up on this Instagram live stream, I'll just cut it out. But I feel like I'm going to do an Instagram live stream just because I felt like, I said I was going to do it Saturday. And I might as well just talk to the people. And we're going to add it at the end because, you know, I don't want to sell you some false goods here. So we'll add this into the end of the video. I'll probably do an outro anyway. But yeah, this is one of the rare times in show business where I have literally recorded this episode hours before it'll be posted. So yeah, I'm going to do this live stream, and it's probably going to last way longer than it should, and it's going to be harder to edit this video and get things done in the morning, but that's what we're going to do. We're going to jump right into this live stream and see if anybody's on it, which I really don't think that many people will be on it because it's fucking 12 o'clock at night, and I said I was going to be on Saturday, but I wasn't on Saturday, so we'll just see what happens. Because it's way too fucking late for anybody to be on. What's up, Lil Nab? What's up, bro? Damn, more people on than I thought. What's up, Block Boy Humble? I think I remember your name, bro. Do I remember you from a long time ago? So I'm recording a podcast right now. If y'all are on here, y'all are on the podcast. That's going to be posted Monday. I pretty much talked about all of the UFC shit. Like all of the UFC 315 stuff, so if you want to talk about that more, or if you want to hear about that more, it's on Monday's episode. Long time no see. I've actually been live streaming pretty consistently, like every week, and I guess it's just not pushing the notifications out. But what's up, Spooky J Lock? But I am yours. How long have you been watching? I don't know. I don't really recognize your name. Have you changed your profile picture and stuff? Because some people have come back on, and then I've been able to recognize their name, but I feel like I recognize your name, but not your profile picture. But what's up, everybody? What do you think about UFC 315? I talked about on this episode like a whole bunch of crazy shit. Aldo retiring, McGregor being motivated. This dude saying Happy Mother's Day. Thank you, bro. I haven't pushed a child out of my pussy yet, but I like the sentiment. Yeah, you, bro. I am yours. Yeah, I'm talking about you. I feel like I remember you, but I might be tripping. And Block Boy Humble. I remember this guy. Yeah, what do you guys think? What do you guys think of UFC 315? Are we liking Bilal Muhammad now? Are we liking him or not? Was that your name? Okay. Yeah, I don't fucking remember that name. I'm not gonna lie to you, brother. What's up? Days of Noah. What's up, brother? I said I was gonna do a live stream for the my brain is not working, it's too late. I said I was going to do a live stream for UFC 315, I literally fell asleep. I said this at the beginning of the podcast, but um, it's not a joke. At the main card, I watched the early prelims from 5:30 all the way until like 9 o'clock or whatever it was, and then fell asleep at the fucking main card, which sucks because now we're having to recap it. Bilal did not have hands like Canelo, that's for sure. Yo, it'd be like, imagine you're like, hey dude, there's this guy in the UFC, he's trained by Canelo, and then and then you show him that fight. You show him that fight like, yo, this is a dude trained by Canelo. That'd be so fucking disappointed. I look tired. Am I okay? Yeah, man. I've been doing a fucking podcast episode for the last like hour. How's life going? It's going good, man. I've been got a lot of ideas for YouTube videos, as you see. Check out the YouTube channel. But that's pretty much what I've been doing. But yeah, shit. Life's good whenever you're watching a UFC event every weekend. But yeah, man. What was the other question I was gonna go on? Yeah. The hands like Canelo thing. Dude, that's fucking ridiculous. That's hilarious. I feel like the disrespect is kind of ridiculous for Bilal because he goes out there and he doesn't wrestle. He doesn't do the thing that everybody hates about his style. He goes out there and tries to strike with this striker, and then everybody shits on him like, dude, you could have won the fight with wrestling. Well, that's why he tried to strike, is because everybody was talking shit about the wrestling. I just think that's fucking... If you're trying to, impress people in the fight game, you are in it for the wrong reasons. Yo, what's up? Good to see you too, Flaming Pixar. I think this is like the third time in a row that I've seen you in the live stream, brother. It's good to see you back. That katana looks sick. Yo, that's hilarious because all of my Instagram live streams back in the day, people would want me to take out that katana. It is the cheapest Chinese plastic that you've ever seen in your life. I mean, it's not like a plastic sword. It's just like the plastic handle and all of that. I know it looks sick, but yeah, I got it at a Taekwondo tournament in like 2012. God damn, a long time ago. Man, that sword is old as hell. And that dagger on it too. Yeah, that's from 2012 because it's this shirt I have right here. I don't know if you can see it on the live stream, but I have a shirt that says from a tournament that I was in 2012, which means that I had to get that sword at 2012. It looks great. Yeah, thank you, brother. It was probably like $30. But I guess it's the looks that matter. It's definitely not like what do you call it? Damascus steel forged Japanese katana or anything, but it's sharp enough. The thing I always talk about this, the thing that you'd really want to focus on is this dagger right there. That dagger is scary as hell. It's like it used to be a ceremonial dagger where they'd like stab it in their stomach and then disembowel themselves for, I don't know, losing a fight. People were really dramatic back in the day. But yeah, man, Bilal did not have hands like Canelo. To recap off, UFC 315, Aldo retired. It was kind of sad. We saw Shevchenko win, which is what I thought. We saw Benoit Saint Denis, or whatever his name was. I think he was the only finish on that card, which is crazy. Then I feel like I'm missing something. Got Aldo, JDM. Then there's one more on that card, but I don't think I know who those people were. But either way, do I play games? Brother, look at my shirt. Look at my shirt. I don't just have this shirt for no reason. Not often. I try not to. If I'm gonna do anything that like distracts me, that's probably gonna be what I'm doing. Is playing some sort of game rather than watching TV, because I feel like it's, I don't know, it's just better than just sitting there and scrolling on TikTok if I'm gonna waste my time on something. But brother, usually what I'm doing is YouTube videos. But yeah, for a long stretch there it was just work, and pretty much video games whenever I got home. But now, yeah, pretty much just YouTube videos, man. Try to stay away from the video games as much as possible. Try Sekiro. Oh, is that one with the sword? It's like Ghost of Tsushima that I heard had a bunch of awards. Yeah, I'll have to. I like. You know what I like to do with new games now? The only game that I will be playing that's new is GTA 6. But I'll look it up on YouTube. That's usually what I do with new games. I'll just look it up on YouTube and see if it's cool. But yeah, recapping off 315. I think that pretty much sums it up. We got, what do we got next week? We got Burns versus Marias. And then we got Blankfield versus Barber for the next 2 weeks. So that's going to be the next live streams that we're going to be doing. But I'm going to hop off Instagram here. Thank you all for joining me this late. I know there was no notice on this. If you want to watch the rest of this podcast that I did, go on YouTube. It'll be up in the morning, Monday morning sometime. Anyway, guys, thank you for watching on YouTube. And, Instagram, and I will see you the next live stream later. God damn, that's how tired I am. I'm fucking over here slurring Instagram and YouTube, and you know what time it is, guys. Look at that, perfectly timed. 1 hour and 2 minutes. Guys, I am, like, tired to the point where I'm delirious. But yeah, man, I had fun talking with y'all. I hope y'all are having a good morning, afternoon, whatever. And I'm going to get to editing this podcast. And yeah, guys. Like I said, next week we'll be doing those videos. Go watch Guess Who Wins, guys. If you haven't watched Guess Who Wins and you watch the end of this podcast, go watch Guess Who Wins. It's a new series I'm doing. I'm going to do a bunch of episodes on it. I really don't got any more news. Thank you all for watching. And, yeah, guys, thank you for sticking around to the end. And, yeah, I'll see you next one. Later.